Hello, and welcome in this evening, everyone. I am so happy you were able to join us and able to see and hear us. I'll just wait for the wonderful verification of all of our friends in chat to make sure, because it's important to check these things. But as long as you can hear and see us, I am happy to have you in this evening back to the Old Ways stream, where we are going to be playing a little Dark Ages vampire, something we're calling Stealing Immortality. And right at the top of the show, one of the things that I want to do is issue a content warning. It is super and very important that you understand that this is a mature show and it's meant for mature audiences. So if you are going through Twitch and trying to find something to watch tonight and you and the kids are in this post-holiday bliss, this is not the show for them. Promise. We are, however, going to have a ton of fun, and we're going to get to a lot of very interesting parts of our tale today, which begins with the players. And so before I introduce them, I'll formally introduce myself. My name is Michael Diamond. I am the Chief Catalyst and head of the Old Ways. My pronouns are he, him, and I will be your storyteller for Stealing Immortality. And I'm joined by a cast of three who hopefully you've had an opportunity to hang out with a little bit in their prelude episode, but I will let them introduce themselves. So take it away.
Hi, I'm Morgan, and my character is Genevieve de Montfort. Our pronouns are she, her, and I'm a ghoul that is part of Clan Ventrue. I'm also a cast member on the Old Ways podcast, and you can find me on their Discord server and in a variety of games such as RuneQuest and Children of the Periphery.
Fabulous. And next to Genevieve.
Hi, I'm Bunny. I play a Toreador ghoul named Emerenzia, and our pronouns are she, her, and I'm also a cast member of the Old Ways podcast. And you've probably heard my voice as people like Tudor in the Mage the Ascension of Babylon game, or in our family reunion for Old Gods of Appalachia.
Fabulous. And last but most certainly not least.
Hi, I'm Allie, and I am playing Ophelia Sellos, a ghoul of Clan Brujah. Our pronouns are she, her, and you have heard me in a variety of games on this show, specifically currently Delta Green and Mage the Ascension.
Indeed. So we're going to begin tonight with a little bit of a level set. So I think that's important. Our ghouls recently were on screen in a manner of speaking, as you all saw them go through sort of a common, almost every day or every month experience where they fed from their sires, their dominators, as some might call them. What's important about this is that we've set the stage for some of what will take place tonight. And as we have done that, we are going to open the curtain with each one of them, and play will begin with the beginning of my introduction order, and that will be with Genevieve, who's played by Morgan. Genevieve, this evening has been one of furious activity at Antonio's villa. You have been kept in a very, very rapt attention of your master. The city of Constantinople lays out before you, and from the back of his villa, where you have been very dutifully training some of his armsmen, the fledgling retainers and mortals that make up some of his more formal guard, he has been having you drill them as only you can. The master's attention has been very divided after recent events in the Latin Quarter. There have been some rumors and some findings that the Latin Quarter has become exceedingly unsettled. Now, Antonio's villa is not near the Latin Quarter, but you know that the entire city is something he concerns himself with. The stability of the city, the importance when it comes to the careful control of the mortals and the goings and comings of trade, especially when it comes to the trade markets which deliver him the gold he needs to continue all of this existence. It's near the end of the training that you feel his presence behind you. You feel him reach for you, not in a physical way, but you feel his mind come closer to yours. Almost this ephemeral sense that he is focused on you. And you are mid instruction with several of his guardsmen.
My words fumble just a little bit as I'm instructing the guardsmen to continue working on their parries and, defense skills. And I can feel my body getting flushed, knowing that he is close. And so I turn around and face him.
He looks determined. He looks as if he is mentally working through something. He makes a simple gesture with his right hand for you to come forward. He doesn't speak.
I call back to the trainees. Continue practicing. If I see a scratch on any of you, you will be black and blue. Because they should be able to defend themselves. And I turn back to my master and bow my head and, Master, what can I do for you?
He lets the response sort of roll out of his mouth. What do you think of them?
The new trainees.
Yes.
If I might be so bold, Master. I think they're terrible. I think they're not, they will not do your army justice or your guard justice.
And whose responsibility will it be to make sure that they do?
Mine, of course. I will whip them into shape. Or whip them, literally.
Instruct them first. You'd find many troops lack the courage to stand to the whip too long. And you wouldn't want to put a sword in that person's hand afterwards. He leans forward a little bit and you see him reach his hand out and he grabs your chin. And he tilts your head left and right a little bit. You watch his eyes review you. And it's an entire manner of emotions that flood through you. And he says, go and get cleaned up. Put on something presentable. We leave within the hour.
Where are we going?
He arches an eyebrow. Questions?
Just so I can be prepared, do I need to bring a weapon?
It may not hurt. Something you can conceal.
Oh, I have just the thing in my room.
He releases your face. Go.
Yes, master. I look to one of my lieutenants and let him know that to continue excuse me, to continue training the worthless humans that they have brought from the city.
Hmm.
I just sigh that it'll be fine. I go back to my room and I get ready in something presentable, and I conceal my dagger in a strap in my thigh.
Very well. We'll leave you there momentarily. Emerenzia, the past week or so has been anything but fraught. It has been a series of wonderful and ultimately relaxing venues, one after another. The Dama has flitted between a few different fancies, mostly in the Latin Quarter, tasting different foods that have come in from some of the trading ships. And she's also spent time in talks with a few members of her kind, which has afforded you the opportunity to meet some people, some other immortals. They vary in type and background, and you mostly perform for them the harp and several other instruments that you're deft at playing. The Dama parades you a little, and she makes sure that everyone in the audience knows just how proud she is of your success.
Anything to please her.
It's the night, probably a week after your feeding, and you are at a villa, one which she thanks for the subscription. I appreciate it. You're at a villa outside of one of the markets, not too far from the hippodrome. You can see it in the distance. It's walls and then all of the curved steps. You can hear the rumblings of some of the charioteers who are finishing up. And the moon is hanging in the sky beautifully. That alert is going to really get me. Hang on a second. I don't know where that's at. I gotta find it. Sorry, folks.
What are you looking for?
So the alert that goes off when someone subs is looping.
Oh.
And so that's in my ear like every 2 seconds. I don't know if people can hear it out there, but
Yeah.
yeah. It's a test. I'm going to see if it'll kill the alert. There's no Kevin, only Zool. Okay. Cool. All right. So the villa is something that gives you the opportunity to sort of look down on the city, the main space, one of the central spaces in Constantinople, which is sort of the palace district. It's not too terribly far from the hippodrome, which is super helpful. It gives you a wide swath of the humanity. And while you're outside with the Dama and probably a collection of like 8 or 10 different people, most of these are mortals. There's probably a few other members of the Immortal Society here. You're not
Yeah.
terribly certain, although some of them probably are a little paler than others. You catch the scent of something. It's intermingled with a lot of the food and a lot of the wine that's available, a lot of the spiced food that's here too. But what you smell is something burning.
Oh dear. Something burning. I will try to find. I'll politely try to excuse myself to find where that's coming from.
Mhm.
Sort of seek out the smell's source. Trying to be discreet in case it's nothing.
Mhm.
'Cause I wouldn't want to alarm anyone or ruin anything going on.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I mean, everybody else that's here collectively is really focused on just having a good time. Um, you go back in to the interior of the villa and you start hearing loud voices. You start hearing people shout.
I will rush that direction.
Okay. You rush that direction. You head down along the length of the building and then eventually downstairs to the main floor in the villa. And you see that there are several people who are coming in from the street and they're wounded.
Hmm.
Their clothes are stricken with blood. They have cuts. There's probably 5 total. There's a couple that look like they have burn marks on them. And they're in all manner of just distress.
Oh my goodness. What what happened? Where did you just come from? What did this to you? Um,
There's an elderly man who speaks up, and his tunic is ripped, and you can see that he's got a couple of cuts that he's trying to sort of hold together. And he says, "It's the Latin Quarter again. The riots are boiling over. They've made a mockery of the peace of Constantinople, and they're going to take this place into a doom. They're burning buildings now."
I will. I'll rush off to go. I'll get you help. Don't worry. I'll get you help. And I'm gonna go tell. Um, Probably the Dama discreetly.
Okay. You head back upstairs. You head out to the villa, the part of the villa that overlooks the street. And you can see that several people up here now have turned their attention away from this wonderful flute player who was carrying quite a tune and singing along. And they've sort of turned their heads to look out and north. And you see that they've taken their focus to the far end, sort of the northern portion of the city. And there are a couple of buildings on fire.
Hmm.
And the Dama turns to you and says, "We should leave."
Understandable. Um, Considering how many wounded were flooding in just now, I doubt it's safe for either of us here.
Unlikely. Come. She extends a hand to you.
I will take her hand, and she could lead me wherever she likes.
She says to you, in somehow in the space of getting around all of the people moving and you're going through the halls here to get out of this villa, whosever house it is. And she whispers to you, yet you still hear her. She whispers to you that we have a special meeting tonight, one which you won't forget.
Well, leave it to you to find something memorable to do.
She whisks you away, and you leave the concerns of the Latin Quarter behind you. So, Ophelia, your sire, Kalias, is directing people. He is yelling at the top of his lungs to bring more water. Very recently, the trouble with the Latin Quarter boiled over. It has done this several times in the past few weeks. Unfortunately, there's been some ill news recently for the Empire, and that is causing the people here to not get along as well. So much so that the people are rioting against the government. And it's turned ugly again tonight as another simple trader's house has been set ablaze after an argument. And your master is having you assist him in gathering up essentially buckets of water to help put the house out before 3 or 4 more houses become engulfed.
And I'll be like rallying other people who are around me too to grab buckets of water. So that way there's at least a handful of us who are actively carrying water to this, poor merchant's house, so that way we can quell the blaze as fast as possible.
Yeah, he's moving with I wouldn't say in inhuman speed and strength, but he's pretty close to defying many tenants, most likely. He's really concerned about this specific house, and he works tirelessly over the period of 20 minutes or so to set this one house from becoming completely engulfed. You're not sure why it's so special to him. Unfortunately, his efforts are in vain, as there are several people who are continuing to light houses on fire in the area as a method of protest. And the savagery which Kalias responds with is just as brutal. He does not mince words when he approaches these men. He does not wait or parley or discuss. He rends. And all of his fury is spent, and the buildings still burn. It is a gripping scene, watching him move from person to person, seeing him engrossed in his ability. Later, there is a moment you have with him at a nearby well as he sits and strips down to just the lower portion of a loincloth to wring out the linens that are ripped and bloodied. You can see he's He's not been touched by any of these humans who opposed him.
Shall I fetch you new clothes, Master?
I will need them. I will need a fresh tunic and whatever water this well can spare for my hair. We have a special meeting tonight with others, and I cannot go there soaked in the blood of humans.
I will return promptly. And I will fetch the the new clothes, new tunic, and I will help him wash out his hair as much of the blood as I can get out of it without drenching him completely.
It
Once I
takes
return.
it takes you a considerable amount of time to clean the blood out of his hair. His hair's long, probably down to the middle of his back. It is a sort of rusty brown color, and the blood doesn't help much. As you are preening your master, he looks up at you and says, "This meeting we attend tonight, it is to make this better. It is to stop these riots once and for all."
It's overdue.
The members of my society do not move fast. No matter how their blood quickens, everything is slow for them. Everything moves as the snail, grains of sand on the beach. They wait, and they watch, and then they hide. He stands up. He puts on the fresh, when you use air quotes there, fresh tunic, and tries to get his hair mostly dry. And then he turns to you and says, "The task we will lay before you is a perilous one.
I will prevail, Master.
We shall see. Come, we must go to the forum." Hours later, when the moon is high, the group of you, each in your own separate directional way, find yourself in one of the forums of Constantinople. Now, there are many forums that were built in such a grand city, but this one is seemingly unused. It is an open space where people used to debate. Sometimes there are markets, although this one seems a little disused. And it's also been pulled down. A lot of the original stonework that was here has been pulled apart. This is common in Constantinople, as many of the buildings are cannibalized over time to build new ones. And so many of the rocks that would make up walls or even some of the colonnades here may have been taken apart. You can see the shadows lengthen in those areas. The space is quiet for each of you. You arrive with your respective masters, and each of you see two other pairs approaching the same circle, the same center of the forum, is quiet. The calls from the Latin Quarter, the smell of smoke is beyond the distance. It's eerie here. It's as if nothing but you and your sire moves. And so I wonder, for the benefit of our audience, if in our introduction order, if our characters would please, our players would please describe their characters visually to assist.
Sure. So, excuse me. So Genevieve is probably about 5'6", 5'7". She's not super tall, but not super short. She's got this auburn hair that she usually wears in either a bun or in a braid. And she's got bright blue eyes that are, and her face is speckled with freckles. And she looks, pale-ish. And she she looks like she's about late 20s. So she's a little younger. And she's currently wearing a long green tunic that has well, it did have what seems to be like a shawl or a hood to help cover her face so she can look around and not be notice if she's staring at somebody else. And she is, well, you can't see it, but she's carrying a dagger on her thigh. She stays close to her sire, um, but not close enough to touch, but close enough that she's right in his vicinity in case something happens.
Yeah,
That's Genevieve.
And for clarity, the man she is standing next to is dressed in an immaculate white tunic and has a beautiful purple colored cloth over it. There is a scepter in his right hand. It almost seems perfunctory, like one wouldn't use it as a weapon, but there is something official about it. And so, Emerenzia, if you would.
Of course. Emerenzia looks to be about 32 years of age. She's 4'8", a sort of slight frame, or average, I suppose, of the time, with olive green eyes and ebony hair, and she has sort of soft features. But man, this little Italian woman that you see before you will could show you some things, could rock your world in a few different ways, good or bad. She may not be very large, but she is stronger than she looks.
I'd say that the woman next to her is slightly taller, probably 5'3" or 5'4". She's captivatingly beautiful, almost almost stunning in a way. She certainly looks every bit an Italian woman of the age. She is molded as if out of pale marble, and she wears a beautiful dress of the period, a slightly more noble dress of the period. She has something to cover her hair, and she has a veil if necessary, and then beautiful, intricate work on all of her garments as well, beadwork, and nothing in her hands except just immaculately cared for skin and nails. And then Ophelia, if you would.
So Ophelia is 4'10". She looks in her early 20s. Light olive skin, chestnut brown hair with wide brown eyes and thin lips. Um, she is wearing a combination of like more modest, like peasant wear and slightly more regal wear. She has like a more common slip underneath, but with a layer of something that is more brightly intricate, primarily blue and like gold threading, but no beading. And she also has a satchel, and she is wearing a shawl over the top of it.
And next to her is a slightly of all the parties here, a slightly unkempt man. He wears a tunic. He wears it a little higher on the sleeves. It exposes his large forearms and biceps. He has long brown hair. He appears to be slightly bearded. He has a fair complexion trending to pale. He has sort of a pronounced hawkish nose, and he has a perpetual look of hunger on his face. Sort of these deep brows, and I'd say he's 6'2", 6'3". He has a belt around the middle of his tunic, which makes him look a little bit more put together than he probably normally is. The Dama is the first to speak as the group comes together. The three of them come together. And she gives a polite bow and slight curtsy, although it's strained, to both of the men who are there. And she says, Antonio, Callias, thank you for joining me here. Her words are poured honey in your ears. This is something, Emerenzia, that you're very used to. You can tell when the Dama wants to be charming because she can just turn it on like a light. Antonio nods, gives her a courteous nod, and bows his head slightly. He says, Dama, I am glad to see you have arrived unharmed. I heard there was trouble. You can see the storm clouds that sort of gather around Callias immediately. And he doesn't say anything, but the Dama reads his reaction and sort of smirks. Well, that's really what we're here about, right? Putting an end to it. The well put together man, Antonio, nods. You have yours, I see. He sort of gestures to you, Emerenzia. The Dama doesn't snap her fingers. She just raises her hand and sort of gently requests you forward.
I will come beside her.
Yes, I do, Antonio. This is Emerenzia. She is of my blood. Perhaps more soon.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
The older man regards you respectfully, but you can tell that there is a difference in the level of respect he pays you versus the Dama.
She'll look embarrassed for interrupting the Dama and just sort of let her continue doing her magic in the awe that she inspires.
The only person that doesn't seem to be immediately dumbstruck awe with the Dama is this man they call Callias, who has sort of moved to this position where he's crossed his arms in front of him. And he looks perturbed. This is mine. He reaches out and sort of puts a hand on Ophelia's shoulder and brings her forward. She's capable and trustworthy. She will be an asset to our cause. Antonio seems to laugh to himself. I have brought Genevieve. She's worthy of such a test. Do not underestimate her.
I purposely come forward from behind Antonio and, take down my hood and just nod.
Well, Antonio continues. I suppose we should explain things to you. Would be better if we did not give a protracted monologue. He sort of eyes Callias. We know how you Brujah like to talk. The Dama sort of extends a hand to both of them. Gentle sirs, please. Allow me. I can smooth this and make it palatable. The two of you, if you wish to, well, play at swords later, you can. We have important business to attend to. Come, children. She sort of extends her hands to all three of you, and you see Antonio and Kalia sort of step back a little bit. And the Dama gets somehow, and then she's not a very large woman, but she sort of gets her arms around all of you, not physically so much, but like puts you all in her view, sort of tries to push you together. First, I want you all to understand that this task you are being given is one of utmost importance to the future of this city. And for the future of your lives. Your very existence hinges on your ability to accomplish this task. She chuckles. Now, why have the three of us come together? In the hour of our city's need, there are some things which have become clear. I will not bore you with them, as Callias would. You see see Callias sort of just shoot the Dama a glance, although she can't see him, so. We want you to steal something. Not just something, but some things from a very important person. And we think it would be a wonderful test of your ability. And each of us have agreed that we are willing to put a very special prize at the end of the road, provided you can accomplish this task. We're all aware of your desires, some of us more keenly aware than others. I have something that I want, child. The Dama says to you directly, Emerenzia. You are going to go and fetch it for me.
Of course, Dama, whatever you need, whatever you desire.
I desire you to work with these two others to accomplish this task. In this city, the number 3 is very powerful. There is many triumvirates. We have grouped together because we believe that change is coming, and we wish all of you to benefit from it. Antonio sort of steps forward. Please, can we get to this? She smirks a little mischievously. Of course, please get to it. There is a villa in the Palace District. It is one held by Epirus, a potent and politically powerful member of our family. You're not really sure what he means by our family, but there is some resonance within you, Genevieve, when he says our family. You think he means Clan Ventrue? There have been for some time matters of import that he has kept away in his vault beneath his villa. We believe that there are forces at work that could potentially change the nature of that vault and the contents therein. And I wish you, child, to gather something for me. Do you understand?
Oh, yes, Master. Whatever you need.
Good. And make haste, you have but this night to accomplish it. Callias joins the now 3 of them and says to you, Ophelia, we must break the chains, and this is how you will do it. You will gather for me something very specific from the bowels of this house. You will let no man nor kindred stand in your way. Do you understand?
Yes, Master Dukas, I understand.
Good. Now, the 3 of us have agreed, Antonio says, that we would not reveal to one another what we are looking for. And so, we will tell you in secret, and then you will go. I believe the Dama has an invitation. You see the Dama nod very carefully. She extracts from the folds of her dress a brown piece of paper, which seems to be sealed. And she hands it very carefully over to you, Emerenzia.
Understood. Not understanding that this is important and the request of the Dama, and so it has to happen and will happen, and she'll do anything to make that happen. She will take it and hold it like it's much more fragile than a piece of paper. That being said, not understanding if she should open it right here in front of them, she's just going to continue sort of grasping it like it's her life itself in her hands right now.
Sure. Ophelia, Callias leads you away. Antonio, you get led away by Genevieve. You get led away by Antonio in sort of different quarters of the forum. And the Dama just does the best thing possible for you, Emerenzia, and that she gets really close to you, like within inches of you.
Yes, Dama?
And she says, in the basement, in the vault of this villa, there is a sculpture, a hideous and disgusting one, but one made which has no equal. It is undeniable when you will see it. You will know which I speak of. There are 4 arms. There is an impressive pair of bat wings. It is too large to carry. I do not need the statue. But it is said that there is a place within this statue concealed. There are 2 jars, small, covered with wax and sealed tight. I require them. You are not, under any circumstances, to open them.
Of course. I wouldn't dream of opening them without your permission.
She reaches very carefully out with just the tip of her forefinger and puts it under your chin. And she says, "Immortality awaits you when you return with them."
Emerenzia's breath catches for a second as she tries to fight the smile that's trying to creep across her face.
You and I will find one of the many wonderful bathhouses at the Arcadium. It will be the last sunset you see.
I thank you, Tama. I will not only savor that last sunset, but dream of the night with you.
Wonderful. For you, Genevieve, Antonio doesn't go far, maybe 4 or 5 steps, but enough to be out of earshot of anyone. And he looks you directly in the eye and says, "What I wish is a weapon. Inside that vault is the sword of Nero Claudius Drusus, the commander who helped pacify Germania, hundreds of years ago. And so you are aware, the movement we are making against a member of our own clan is not without reason. I simply cannot share them with you now. I need you to be a good and dutiful servant and retrieve this sword."
As you command, Master.
Good. We'll have further instructions for you shortly. Ophelia, Callius wraps you in like a half embrace. Like he grabs both of your elbows and sort of draws you a little closer. And you see a lot of frustration and frenetic energy attached to him. I would not move against other kindred in this manner unless it was absolutely necessary. But we are all on a different journey, and I believe Constantinople's future requires us to make these moves. The fighting in the Latin Quarter will not stop. But we will find a way to hold those parties responsible. And when we do, it will be important to have these items I need. Inside the depths of this vault, there are a series of scrolls kept from the library at Alexandria. They are important to me, but moreover, they are critical to Clan Brujah. They prove something which others have sought to deny for centuries, since the time of Carthage. With these scrolls, we can forge new truths, ones which even Clan Ventrue cannot deny. Collect them for me and for us, and prove your worth to Clan Brujah once and for all.
As is your will, Master Dukas.
You all sort of get turned back around towards the center of the forum, and the group collectively comes back together again. Now, the Dama says. Now that that is done, we all have our baubles and trinkets picked out. I look forward to seeing what the three of you do. The missive, the note you carry, is one which will allow you entry into this villa. There is a gathering there this evening, one which is only attended by those who hold those notes. It will be attended by kindred and ghoul alike, along with other mortal retainers. Your orders are simple. Retrieve them. Do not leave the villa without them. And so you are aware, we have been able to glean some information which you might find helpful. There is a member of Clan Ventrue, a ghoul, a man by the name of Andronicus. He is the seneschal that Epirus uses. He likely has a key to the vault. He will be at the gathering. He will be assisting the workings of the house. There is another ghoul, Simon. He is the lead protector of the vault. He likely would have a key, if for nothing else than to open the vault when his master arrived. You will need to be wary of some of the attendees, though. Helene Stefina of the Malkovs. She is the head of revelry there. And so she will sing and dance, and she may captivate many. Be careful you do not make eye contact with her. Be as you are, servants, ghouls. Go unnoticed for as long as you can. She sort of takes a deep breath in. Maria Balsamina of our clan Toreador will be there. It is likely she will be orating or singing. She knows of you, Emerenzia. She knows you are mine. We have a wonderful and jealous rivalry. Be mindful of her. Antonio interjects. Irene Stellus of Clan Ventrue will be there as well. If Epirus is away from the villa, which we believe he will be, Irene will be in charge temporarily. She is an effective military commander, and her orders are followed to the letter. Now, I bid all three of you as much luck as you can hold. Antonio turns and leaves. He does not say another word. Callias sort of just steps back a few steps and looks up into the night. He turns to you, Ophelia, and says, I will wait for you at my villa. Do not make me wait long.
And I'll bow deeply to him.
He walks away. The Dama reaches in the folds of her dress and produces a very small bottle, and she uncorks it. And just with the smallest amount of effort, she turns the bottle upside down and seems to get some sort of oil on her finger. And she reaches out and gently rubs it down the center of your neck until she gets to your collarbone. And then ever so slightly just puts the bottle stopper back on. There's this bouquet of lavender that comes off of it. Now, go have fun, children. She turns around and sort of carefully looks at you just for a moment and smiles.
Not too much fun, Dama. Don't worry. Not without you.
She walks off into the night. And the three of you are there together.
Well, I'm a little hurt that Antonio didn't say anything to me. Didn't even tell me what my gift was going to be. This is all internal. I'm not saying that out loud to my fellow ghouls that I don't know.
Well, I guess we'll all be working together this evening. I don't think we'll be able to get around that. We all need to get it to the same place, and it's going to take all of our effort.
Yes, and the swifter the better.
I'm going to open the missive from the Dama.
Okay. That sounds wonderful. If you could read it for the rest of us, if there are any issues reading my creative penmanship, please let me know.
Will do. Let it be known that on the Idis Martinae, Martinae.
It's a Roman date.
Mm-hmm. The Idols of March. I know. I just words. Let it be known on the Idis of March that there will be a gathering within the villa of Prefect Epinas to be attended by the bearer of this decree. Admit no others and no weapons. I super can't read the name at the bottom. Oh, Michael.
That's okay. It should say admit no others on penalty of death.
Oh, that's not on here.
Okay. Well, it's on here, so.
Perfect. Admit no others on penalty of death. Signed. A name that I already said I cannot read. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Maybe it's just in a language you don't know. Aha!
Aha! Oh, maybe.
That's what the note says.
That's what the note says. I'll put the decree back in its envelope for easy carry. We have a party to get ready for.
I can't go dressed like this.
I mean, I suppose. I think the main thing is that, well, we need to go unnoticed as best we can. That also doesn't mean that we shouldn't look appropriate to be there. I'm just wondering if we should dress more like servants or less. There's nobody people don't pay attention to enough like servants.
Yeah, I have just the dress to fit in. Antonio bought it for me. He likes me to wear it around the villa.
That sounds delightful. Ophelia, do you feel appropriately ready for this gathering?
Yes. Mostly just because it has always been at the behest of Master Dukas to wear something that is appropriate for the types of environments that I might be in. We're going to be attending a gathering of people, and we are attending in a villa, which means that the majority of people will probably have at least a small amount of finery of some sort.
That makes sense.
Look too plain, and we will be more out of place.
Well, I will go back to Master Antonio's villa and put on the dress. And it said no weapons on the missive.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to make things quite difficult. I will just have to obtain a weapon while I'm there.
Yeah,
Our best bet will. Yeah. There's no other way around it.
I mean, Genevieve, I don't presume to know you or the types of weapons you prefer. I also don't assume to believe that you couldn't improvise a weapon if desired. But I think there are ways to be discreet about how you carry a weapon with you. Should you want to risk it?
We are going to get an ad shortly here, which is okay, but just letting folks know when it comes. We'll try not to move the narrative too far forward during an ad break, but for this one we'll probably play through. Okay, so in the interest of time and fun, what I'd like to say is those of you who decide to go back and get prepared, you can do that. If there's something specific in your preparation you'd like to mention, go ahead and do it. And then we can have the group sort of meet or rejoin when they're all properly prepared. I was half expecting you, Morgan, to have Genevieve just keep the knife strapped to her thigh and put a dress on and be like, they're not going to check my dress. So, but whatever.
But they could. But it could be more fun to obtain a weapon while I'm at the party.
It's true. It totally could be. And you could improvise. You could find a fork or a fire stick poker or all sorts of fun stuff.
I am adaptable.
I've heard that about you. That's good. I mean, you sort of work for a master who needs you to be kind of whatever he needs you to be when he needs you to be it. So.
And I oblige. Oblige.
You do. So you're going to put on a different dress.
I am. It's going to be a maroon dress, and it's going to have, it's still going to be tight and with a bodice and flow. It'll be a maroon type dress to really bring out my dark auburn hair.
Mm-hmm.
And I will wear a necklace that it's like pearl-like with a pendant that hangs down around my neck to show off my very nice neckline and cheekbones. I'm pretty cute. And so I do remove the weapon and I put on flat shoes, nothing, something I can run in and something that I can do other activities in. So, I will probably meet Ophelia and I'm going to botch your name, Bunny. Emerenzia.
Mm-hmm.
Back at the forum where we initially met.
Okay. So if it's just if it's just Genevieve going out and making a costume change, if that's it, then she comes back. She looks quite different, and she seems to be ready to go. We are back from ads, so if you missed that during ads, all you missed was a costume change, which is kind of cool. It's like a commercial break, except not.
The Dama had kind of warned me that I'd be going to a gathering before. on the night of my last feeding. So,
Mhm.
I don't know. I'd be dressed in my usual gathering fineries that you would send me on any travels, or like representing her without being an entertainer. Though I'd probably still have the smallest of my harps with me, just in case.
Just in case.
You never know. You never know when you need to be, well, distracting.
That's right. You can
And
be
I'm good
distracting.
at distracting.
That's true. We've seen that. We've seen you be distracting. 5 and 6 successes during the prelude distracting. Okay. So the trio of you make your way from the forum to this villa. You sort of walk towards the sea, towards the first hill. It's important to sort of remember that, or to acknowledge that um, Constantinople is really based around a series of hills and then also a series of walls. So there are many rings of walls within the city, and they've seen many uses over the years. And the villa in question is sort of tucked amongst several others. But all the other villas are relatively quiet at this hour, as it is now late into the night, except this one, which has a few sort of bonfires outside of it, small fire pits that have been lit up. There are guards outside. The door is closed, but you get a sense and you can hear revelry from the inside. I'd like to know how the group will approach the villa and what, if any, plan is there.
I mean, I think that keeping an eye out for the others, especially Simon, sounded like our biggest problem. Then, I mean, I think that eliminating that threat is probably the largest one, the largest point in this plan, the largest thorn to remove from our sides before we can go down to the vault. As far as certain people like Maria would go, I don't really think there are huge concerns other than people who might recognize me and interrupt at an inopportune time or notice once I've disappeared. But I have yet to find those kindred with the Dhamma that I can't either distract or dissuade eventually, one way or another.
Okay. Just so we've taken the visual, there are a couple of guards out front. They appear to be dressed in sort of legionnaire outfitting. So they have a hard leather and plated armor. They carry spears, and they also carry, single-handed short sword type weapons, Drusius weapons, or gladius, depending upon your verbiage, I suppose. But yeah, they carry arms and armor, and they stand out front. You haven't seen anybody else approach the house or this villa. I think it's an ostiary, the front door. So there's a technical term for it. Yes, the ostium. You haven't seen anybody else approach it yet. So if the three of you are approaching, let me know. If not, if you're going to wait maybe to see what happens when someone walks in.
I think it would behoove us to wait at least a little while to see if we are either early in attendance or late in attendance.
It might look a little odd if we're standing out here waiting with the guards.
Well, perhaps we don't approach all the way to the house.
Can the guards see us where we're at?
You don't think so. So again, it's nighttime. While there is a moon out, it is not by any means full. And so there's only a light illumination throughout the city. And you think that if you sort of stay some, maybe 60 or 70 feet back from the main doors, you'll probably stay pretty well covered in dark.
Okay. It seems like a reasonable plan. As for getting a key to the vault, I do think Simon is our best bet.
Yeah.
I can eliminate him. Maybe not permanently, but because that could cause a problem. But if need be, I have no problem eliminating him.
As somebody volunteering to eliminate somebody for us, I assume you have the proper skills for that. I must ask, though, do you think you'd be able to do it if it was temporary elimination rather than permanent? Do you think you'd be able to do it so he wouldn't be able to identify us later, so that our sires don't get in trouble for this at the end of the day? Or a long night, as it were.
I will attempt to take him out of the picture in such a way that it's not permanent elimination, and do so without him recognizing any of us, so it gets back to our sires. But if the end result is that we have to permanently eliminate him, that is absolutely fine. I've done it many a time for my sire.
Well, and if it boils down to that, we should probably lock him in the vault once we are done in there. Delay the discovery.
Either that, or if he were temporarily not a problem and shouldn't be able to identify us, if we could drop his key back with him again so that people don't check the vault immediately, that might delay it even further.
Also true.
You hear footsteps.
Oh.
There's someone coming up from behind you.
Instinctually, I turn to whip around in a defensive position. But remember that I'm supposed to be a lady tonight and not a soldier.
Okay, so go you're foregoing going for the thigh knife, and you're gonna what? Clutch pearls? Or what are you gonna do? Like, what's the?
Yeah. I didn't bring my thigh knife with me, so I can't. I can't grab it. I know.
You're
I
gonna
know,
regret
but
that. No, I'm kidding.
I know. I'm. But I go.
Ophelia, you see someone you recognize. You recognize this person from having spoken with your master somewhat recently. You see Thomas, who's walking towards this villa. You see his chiseled features. For the rest of you, he's not so much tall. He's probably 5'8", but he has a very muscular frame. He has a rough beard, and in the light, which is around, you can kind of see he has tufts of hair on the tips of his ears. It's a little noticeable in the moonlight. He has a sort of a 24/7 grin on his face. And that could be because like part of his face is scarred. And so part of the right side of his mouth sort of upticks a little bit because of the split flesh that has healed. And he's wearing a tabard like you might see, like a member of the knighthood wear. Although there's no symbol on it, it's simply black. But he walks past you all. And as he's walking past, that's when he sort of slows his pace. and you hear him inhale, and he turns and he looks at you, Ophelia. Don't I know you?
Have we met?
He sniffs the air again. You are one of Callius's brood. He steps closer. And he's wearing like a sword and a dagger. He looks like he's just come off the road.
I'll step forward, and I don't know if we ever had a proper introduction. My name is Ophelia.
He bows out of respect. Peace be with you. I mean you no harm. He sort of holds up his hands, empty.
Are you on patrol?
No, I do not patrol this area of the city. I am late to speak with someone inside the villa there. You are. He like sort of looks around and then looks at the other two people who are with you. It is late. He sort of furrows his brow a little bit.
We are to be in attendance.
Oh, he straightens up a little bit. I would be happy to accompany you to the gate and to the doors.
I believe we would appreciate that.
Yes,
Would we not, ladies?
Absolutely, Ophelia. We were just, we took a moment to check each other's outfits and make sure we were ready before we approached, but we would love an escort now. I think we're all ready. Genevieve? Or,
Yeah. I feel rather uncomfortable in this dress that I'm wearing. But yeah, I'm ready as I'll ever be.
Wondrous. He turns and sort of slowly walks towards the villa. You see him reach down into like this large leather pouch, pulls the flap up on, pulls out a piece of like a sheaf of paper. And there's 2 or 3 different like wax seals on it with ribbons. And he approaches the gate. You can see the guards come together immediately when they see him approach. And the guard on the right sort of extends a hand out and says, caution, there is no one admittance except on direct orders. And he sort of like lifts up the sheaf of paper. And as he does, the guard sort of notice that there are these things, the ribbons are dangling from the end of it. And the guard says, there's no admittance with weapons. And Thomas takes a step forward and sort of lets the rest of the note unfurl. And he says, as the knight of the cause, you cannot bar me from the doors with my weapons. They are with me. They are me. This note from your master should serve enough. They sort of like take it and read it over. The other guard says, then bond your weapons with this leather. Do not let them leave their sheaths. And you see Thomas sort of like chuckle for a second and then laugh, like openly. I wish no one inside this house ill, and would not need these weapons should I decide to. Now, please, you are holding these fine ladies up. The guards look past Thomas at you, the 3 of you.
I'll hold our admittance decree up.
The guard takes it from you and reads it over. For all 3 of you?
Correct?
He hums for a minute. Okay, we're going to have our first roll. So, Emerenzia, I would like you to make me a manipulation and subterfuge roll. This roll is called credibility.
Oh, goody, my favorite.
And so in the storyteller system in Dark Ages, Vampire, at least in the 20th edition, your target number is normally 6 for any sort of normal challenge. It can be less than that. It could potentially be more than that. But we'll just do a very simple attribute plus skill dice pool, and then difficulty 7. Just let me know how many successes you get. He doesn't look completely impressed. He sort of glowers. It's not the way it was ordered to us. He stuffs the note into his like a pouch at his side. But carry on. The other guard reaches over and pulls on one of the handles for the doors, and you begin to hear a cacophony of party noises from inside the villa as the space therein opens up. Thomas extends his hand forward and gives a slight bow, a deference to the three of you to enter. Please.
I will go first to get a lay of the land.
Okay. Yeah, so the villa, much like many villas around here, are sort of constructed in very similar ways. There are some differences between the villas that the villa, Antonio's villa, the one you will have your home at, but there are a lot of similarities. So they're usually very long buildings rather than squarish. And the space that you immediately enter is a vestibulum, right? So that is sort of the vestibule, the foyer, the space beyond the doors. You see that there are an awful lot of retainers or people sort of standing around right in here. And it is likely that they are waiting to be allowed into the house, or they are waiting because they have been told to wait here. So that could be because of a varying number of reasons. But it's not uncommon for the edges of all of these big rooms to have a lot of people standing at the edge or against the walls. And so moving forward about 30 or so feet, the vestibulum ends, and then it opens up sort of into the first party space, the first main portion of the house. And that's when you're going to see the first pool, right? And then that pool is sort of rectangular. In this one, there's a few people in it. They seem to be having a raucous good time, splashing water at one another. There's a lot of wine being drank here. And in this space, there's probably 30 or 40 people. I'm going to use that term people as a generic term unless the characters decide to intensively study the room and looking for specifics. Because the illumination here is only so good. Everything is done by firelight. And so faces are going to be cloaked in some shadow. People are going to be moving around. So you'll have to let me know as you go through the rooms what you're interested in seeing. There are, of course, beyond that, to the left and to the right of this main space, there are also side rooms, ones that you'd be familiar with for sure, Genevieve. These would be places where a seneschal might do business, or where the head of someone's guard might have an office, or just bedrooms, as is very common within Byzantine culture, although they don't call themselves Byzantine. But what was very popular within the culture is as you grow in financial success, more and more people live with you. So the larger a house is based on its population, usually the more affluent the person is. And it looks like Eperis's villa is one of, well, it's packed with full people. And you're not sure who lives here and who doesn't, but this party is in full swing here in this main room. I'll let y'all chew on that a little bit. You can let me know what you want to do.
I mean, I think that sort of taking a walkabout and getting a bit of a lay of things, figuring out Simon and where a few other staff of the villa are, might be the subtlest way to proceed. Ladies?
I think that is wise. And I don't think that it would be wise for us to move as a group with this many present. That will bring attention to ourselves if we were meant to stay more reserved and inconspicuous.
Understandable. So, where would you like to reconvene?
Maybe in one of the side rooms.
If you'd like more description of the overall layout of the villa that you could see, then let me know and I can give you some of that too.
Yeah, can I get some more detail of the side rooms?
Yeah,
Doors
so
are open and
the ones that are open. So many of them nearby are pretty well closed. For you, being someone that works in a household like this, that is frankly another Clan Ventrue villa, you would know that the forward rooms are going to be for trade and business. This is where people are going to do work, right? They're not going to live up front as much as they would say in back. You also see that the two fauces, so the small hallways that lead sort of from this main, the first square room that has a pool in it to the one that, which is likely much larger, in the back of the house, there are doors there. Now, Antonio does not have doors in his. They are wide open, as is very common in the architecture. But Eperis has doors that block those, and those doors are shut right now. So you can't see what's going on in the sort of larger section of the house where there could be private meetings or gatherings. As far as what's going on in some of the other rooms, I could say all manner of debauchery. We can get into detail if you go into those rooms about what things are happening in them specifically, but it is a party at a very affluent Byzantine house, and it seems that music and wine and perhaps even the spirit of Bacchus has taken many people.
so just for clarification, the main party room is the one that we're in.
Yeah.
Or is there
Yeah.
Okay.
So the main quote party room, where you see a lot of mortals and you see a lot of regular old folks like you that are just having a good time, is right here. What you don't see, and actually what I'll probably ask you to do is actually make a perception alertness roll to sort of see if you pick up on it rather than just hand out the information. I'll test you for it. And it's a test all of you could make if you'd like.
Okay.
You read my mind.
I
What's
heard
the difficulty?
the standard difficulty is 6. I saw your hands rub together, and I was like, oh, they want to roll dice. That's what it is.
Yeah,
Do
4
tens
successes.
So let
Sorry.
me answer the question. So 10s explode, yes, if you have a relevant specialization.
5 successes.
Good Lord.
Oh, 4. successes.
4 successes. Okay. So this is pretty evident to all of you. You don't see anyone who carries the same pallor as your sires or masters out here. No one here is porcelain in nature. No one here holds that feeling just yet. You don't get that sense. You get the sense here that many of these are likely fellow mortals or ghouls, potentially, out here.
Is there another room? Like, I know there's the doors, but was there another room, larger room where additional folks were?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, so this room, just to give you space and idea, is probably like 50 feet deep and maybe 30 feet wide. So there's a lot of space in here. Now, some of that in the central is taken up by this pool, this rectangular pool, and there are people sitting at it and enjoying food. And there are people who are up against the wall, and there are people standing having conversations. And then there's the rooms that lay beyond them. And then, of course, the 2 barred doors that go back deeper into the house. You see Thomas pass you. Go ahead.
Oh, is anyone standing guard at the barred doors?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to go grab a glass of wine from probably one of the many folks serving. And I will start to sashay around the room.
I want to see that.
Interest.
Yeah, I love that idea. So there is a skill in Dark Ages, and that skill is called carousing. There's an actual roll for it here. That's charisma empathy. And so in this way, you are walking around and chatting with people and being pleasant and trying to potentially garner some level of information.
So you want me to roll that?
I would like you to roll that dice pool, yes.
My 0 empathy.
We all have our different strong suits. Fine.
I suppose I would allow, like, so charisma empathy for carousing is more like you trying to calm people down and say, hey, let's have a good time. I would suppose that if you're trying to be a little bit more subtle, I'd let you interject subterfuge in that role and do charisma subterfuge. I don't know if that's better, but that's really the 2 choices you have.
I get 3 successes.
Okay. I will bear that in mind. What is the thing that you are trying to do? Are you trying to gather information? Are you trying to meet people and make contacts? What's the thrust?
Oh, I don't want to talk to you now. I'd like to listen to the conversations. Maybe get an idea as to where our good friend Simon is, or who else was there? And I'm totally gonna botch this name, Andronicus.
Andronicus, you did not botch that name at all.
Awesome. And I'd like to stay away from Irene. So
yeah,
for not to meet her.
So you don't see any. You have not yet seen anyone of any kindred of Clan Ventrue. So far, you should be okay. Okay, I'll bear that in mind. Is anyone else doing something similar, trying to carouse or network or get into the flow of the party?
Yeah, I'll also grab a beverage and saunter around the room.
Now you're actually sauntering, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. And I will also try to hear if I can get any sense of where Simon or the Ventrue that the Dama had mentioned to me are. Well, trying to stay away from Maria because we all have somebody we're playing keep away with, I guess. And so I will try to avoid her for now. Though again, as was noticed, this doesn't really seem like a area that's embraced the night. So that part of the party is probably elsewhere. I will, however, say that I'm adding one other thing to sort of my search here. When I pass the side rooms with debauchery happening in them, I will try to take note of what debauchery is happening, either for future use or in case I need a good distraction or way to get information from people. Though, if it's just some indulgence while we try to figure out another part of the plan, that's fine.
Okay.
But I'll try to hear where Ventrue staff are. And I want to peek in on debauchery and take note of what kind of stuff.
Okay. So, yeah, carouse for me.
And there's no argument that could be made for using your knowledge of etiquette of these kinds of gatherings for that instead of empathy.
I think there's an argument that can be. I'm happy to be a flexible storyteller and let you make a case for a different skill.
I think that you would be, if you're not trying to calm somebody, but instead you were trying to just blend in while doing this, based off of your knowledge of how people behave at these gatherings, that etiquette could be the better option for what we're trying to do. Thought?
Sure. I think that's reasonable.
That's 2 successes.
Okay. So you make a run. You make a tour of the inside of the square. There are an awful lot of people here. And most of them are from the merchant class servant section. So you don't really see any social movers and shakers in this group. These are people who would normally be in service to someone else, but they are, I guess, allowed to have their own relaxation as well. And you can tell that the wine here has been going for several hours. People are beginning to really unwind. And that's no more evident than in some of these side rooms where a collection of people have decided to investigate one another in curious and potentially delicious ways. There are, in one room, people playing with wax candles in sort of this intriguing method and way. There's a lot of gasps from that room and sputters as wax falls on skin. And in others, there's a room that's been turned into sort of a gambling den where pieces of silver and gold are being traded back and forth and pushed across the table as people swap these cards and images. Dice are being rolled in that room. And you find that somewhat intriguing, if only because you feel the rush of those who win and who lose. There's a lot of emotion in that room. And that makes for rather pliable people. You don't hear anything about Andronicus, at least in that circuit that you do. Morgan, Genevieve had 3 successes, right? Yes. So with 3 successes, you come upon a room with a series of books laid out on a table. And you can see a older man, probably in his mid 40s, who's working away at finishing up gathering these books. And there's something about him that reminds you of some of the masters of house where you live. You don't know if that's Andronicus or not, but it's possible that it is. And all the while he's trying to put these books away in seemingly what could be his office, there is a couple in there. And both of them are enjoying themselves and his furniture. And he is doing the best not to pay these 2 very lovely ladies any attention directly. You can tell that he is red-faced and embarrassed, but he has continued to go about his work.
I go into his office, and before I do that, I kind of fix my dress to maybe go a little lower on the cleavage line. I mean, the necklace I'm wearing really enhances that, and falls right between areas that are enhanceable.
Okay, fair enough. I'm going to let you play with your dress. Go right ahead.
Yeah. And so I go in and, I see that he's gathering his books. Do you need some help?
He turns, seemingly happy to have something else to focus on other than what is going on the settee there. And he struggles to sort of meet he seems ashamed a little bit or embarrassed, and he sort of shakes his head. No. I'm certain I can find a place for these things. He sort of gestures in the direction of where the ladies are at on this settee, this long piece of furniture, and you see that there's a bookshelf like right there. I wouldn't want to interrupt, you understand. I need to get these books put away and lock my office, but they came in and became enraptured.
That happens. Yeah, I just put my hand up and I go over to the ladies that are doing their thing. And, I run my hands up their legs. Ladies.
They giggle.
I would be ever so grateful if you could take your activity to another room. This kind gentleman would like to put his books away in here. I'm happy to join you later, but...
They're both relatively beautiful in their own right, dark-haired women, likely local from Constantinople, and the one that's
Antonio would love them.
The one that's yes, he would. The one that's close to you reaches out and places her hand like on your knee, and she says, "We have the space. Let the old man play with his books. 3 is even better than 2. Come and join us."
Well, I would really love to at this moment, but you're making a very enticing offer, but I have things to do. But I take you back to my villa later. There's lots of space there.
But what fun is later? Come live the moment with us. They sort of reach out and grab at a couple of different wine glasses, and You see them try yet fail to provide each other wine from their cups. And now they're, drenched in some sort of red wine, and the floor is spattered with it now.
Yeah, I reach down and the wine that's on one of their necks, I reach down and I lick it off of them.
Okay. So what I'm going to do here for you is I am going to make a charisma roll for them. We'll say charisma and seduction, which is a skill. And we're going to see if maybe you picked the wrong couple of ladies to try to come hither to. Okay, so this is willpower resisted. And so I'm going to need you to roll willpower because they are actively attempting to get you to come and play all their merry reindeer games.
All right, so if 10s explode, do I
You re-roll them, you bet.
roll again?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I get 5 successes.
Very good. You get a very, very tempting offer. You see that the two are not as so intoxicated as to not know what they're doing. And if it had been another night, if it had been another way, perhaps even later with your master, sure, it just can't be right now. And so in the Storyteller system, when there's a roll and it's defended against and those rolls tie, the ties go to the defender. And so in this case, you resist their wilds, their impressive chemistry that they potentially have with you. You do so. It takes some doing, but you are able to not be pulled into this, different triumvirate. While that's going on, you do notice that the man who is in this room walks out of it. I'll leave you there for just a moment. Ophelia, I'd love to know what you're up to in the outer spaces.
Well, before I accidentally interrupted you, you said that Tomas had passed by me.
Yes, that's correct. You are free to pursue Tomas if you would like.
Yes, but I'm going to do so at a distance. And I'm going to grab a glass of wine, and I'm going to keep an eye on him and keep, probably 15 or 20 feet between us. But I want to know where he's going.
Very, very good.
He just had a very intense conversation with my master not too many days prior. And if he's here, I want to know what he's up to.
He seems to be making his way respectfully towards the Faustus, those two inner hallways that sort of make up the separation where the house is, where those guards are. So there are two of them at the end of this main room. There are two little hallways that begin, and they're no more than 15 or so feet deep. And then you see the doors. He is making his way towards one of those doors. And if you continue to follow him, he does make his way there. He speaks with one of the guards, and the guard bows very graciously and opens the door for him. And so I'm going to give you a perception alertness roll because I'm assuming that you're going to want to see what's beyond the door.
Yes, that is correct. Two.
So because Thomas is kind of in his own way a short king at 5'7", 5'8", you do see back beyond that space that the room opens up into yet another really large pool. This one is square. And you hear a strange series of musical notes come from the space. It's much darker back there. There's not as many torches, but there are people moving about. And that the tune that is being played in that space is something which roots around inside of your ear, and like Go So Many Fishermen has hooks, and you kind of hum this tune after hearing it. It's captivating.
So that is probably where some more of the action of the party is. That's probably where the at least one of the singers is back in that area, if it's going to be captivating. Am I so captivated and entranced that I'm going towards the doors against my will, or is it just
No.
something that I hear?
It's just something
as
you
I-
hear. Yeah, you're not being forced against your will. There is a brief moment, you believe, given your own knowledge of how fast you are, you think, depending on timing, that you might be able to get through the door while it's open, because the guard is, of course, respectfully bowing and opening the door for Thomas. He does not come without risk, of course, should you choose to walk down that path.
I'm going to do it. I want to get in there.
Okay, so I'm going to have you make a dexterity. Well, first of all, I'll ask if you are going to utilize your blood-given discipline.
Yes.
Okay, so for those of you who might be watching, who might be a little unfamiliar with vampire, ghouls have certain abilities, and some of the abilities that they do have are gifts of the blood. And those blood gifts allow them to do certain things. And one of the things that Ophelia can do is utilize celerity. So celerity comes to her via the Brujah blood she ingests, and it allows her to act real fast when necessary. So you're going to add your celerity rating to any dexterity-based rolls, including initiative, and you're going to add your celerity rating to the number of yards or meters you move in a turn. Now, we're not in combat rounds, so we're not charting out how many meters you can run, but you are going to add celerity to a dexterity plus athletics plus celerity roll. So you'll add it as an actual die and then roll it. And then to activate it, you need to spend a blood point. And as a ghoul, you have 10 points of blood.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I will spend that blood point.
Okay.
And I will roll that dice pool. Five successes.
Okay. There will be a second test, just so you're aware.
Okay.
You are going to make me a dexterity, dexterity and stealth roll.
Okay.
To see if you do this without being seen. So 5 successes will easily make your path through the doorway. The question is can you do it without being noticed? So we know you can physically do it. Now, can you do it without the guards or potentially Thomas picking up on the fact that you are zipping into the room?
4.
Okay. Like I say, you should always do what you're good at. Okay. So you net 2 successes on the guard. And now I'll roll for Thomas. Okay. You zip into the room, and when you do, you immediately button hook behind the door as you come in, pulling yourself as close to the darkness as humanly possible. And you wait and wait and you don't see any eyes on you. You see Thomas continue his momentum forward through this space, although now he's moving much, much slower. And I'll leave you there just momentarily. I will, however, set the scene for you as a space which is perhaps has half the people as the outer location did. The figures here are gaunt, pale. They cling to the shadows that are here. There are very few torches in this space. The pool in the center of the room is dark, cloudy. And there are several figures on all fours near the pool and its edge. And you're not sure what they're doing. There is this drip, drip sound. So Genevieve, it seems your potential Mark walked out of the room, used the space and time with you being a fantastic distraction in your beautiful dress to make his way out of the room. You've fended off the feminine wilds, as we call them on this show, enough to be able to break away.
Did he leave the books on the table?
Well, they're actually not on the table. They were taken off the table, and then he collected them. He has one with him. He must, but the others have been locked up.
Oh, so he did make it to the bookcase.
He couldn't make it to the bookcase, which was behind these two women. And so he took the book in hand rather than trying to, well, get himself entangled.
I'm going to follow him.
Okay.
But not like follow like I would in the streets and like try to,
right.
Just,
You're going to fly casual.
Sachet. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. With my wine and so on and so forth. And so I'm going to see where he's going.
Awesome. You watch him walk from one end of the outer space towards the other. And you'll notice this as well, Emerenzia, with your previous perception roll. You'll notice that there is someone sort of walking around with a little bit of authority. It's very common in some of the, we'll say, well, some of the clans. The men especially walk around as if they are the emperor himself. That's what this man is doing. And behind him, not terribly far, there is the form of Genevieve, the dress you cannot miss now. And she's trying to be very careful, but she's following him.
I am very curious about that. However, I wouldn't want to risk potentially blowing her cover. So, have I already checked out all the rooms where debauchery are in their entirety?
No, you haven't gotten to all of the rooms blessed by Bacchus just yet. You've gotten to 2 or 3 of them.
Are all of them like human retainers or other ghouls or those types, or have I seen any other people like the Dama around?
You haven't yet.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I won't blow Genevieve's cover, though I will make note of which way she went in case she doesn't rendezvous with us.
Okay. Fabulous. Genevieve, your target stops at a far room and reaches into reaches towards his belt and pulls off a key from his belt and inserts it into the lock that's here at this door. It's a rudimentary, probably very crude lock, but it is a lock. And he opens another room. And just from your perceptions of like where you're at, you can see that it looks like a bedroom. And he steps inside.
Yeah, I rush forward at that point. Sir.
Okay. You rush forward. He turns and sort of fills the door space up a little bit. He has his left hand here on the door, and he sort of steps a little bit forward out. Yes, my dear, what is the trouble?
Oh, I just want to apologize for those ladies' behavior back in your office. That was totally inappropriate of them. They should take their fun elsewhere.
They should, but these gatherings are like this, at least before the music starts. He sort of smiles and nods as if you're in on the joke.
Well, and I would have experienced some of these gatherings with Antonio, I'm sure.
Yeah, so if this is anything like the way Antonio and his folks like get down, what's going to happen here is that all these people who are imbibing and imbibing and imbibing are slowly going to get led throughout the night into the main space that's back there for the rest of the partygoers to enjoy. Because, well, that's the only way they can get intoxicated. That's not hard to understand. You, as a ghoul over the past few years, likely have been used as a, we'll say, font for your master to feed from when you are, when you've had a few cups, maybe more. It's not something he does often, but sometimes that happens. You also remember very plainly and very clearly what happens in the lower spaces in the baths. If there's a bath somewhere near here that is heated, you had to get someone to clean up the dead fucking bodies from one of your master's parties. And it wasn't even him that did it, but that's commonplace. And so you probably flash back in your head and think about how many people are in the room behind you that might not go home because members of the immortal race have needs, and sometimes people get carried away.
Yeah, I flash back to Julian and trying to tell him to go clean baths because he didn't after one of Master's get-togethers.
Mm-hmm.
So I can feel Andronicus's pain at having to moderate a party such as this, and so I tell him, this isn't my master has very similar get-togethers, so I absolutely understand.
Well, I do what I can to make sure that everyone has a good time. That is the Epirus has ordered it. It helps keep the populace in line, and so if there is a gathering once a month where a few members, explore what it means to be carnal, so be it.
Oh. Do you ever have a need to explore?
He sort of looks at you a little quizzically for a moment. Carnal needs? Not in these ways. He sort of gestures out towards the party. No. Not in a group environment. He sort of smirks.
Oh, no. I mean, we have needs just like our masters do.
Oh, indeed. We eat and we drink, and when the mood strikes us, certainly. But service comes first, yes?
Oh, absolutely. I serve my master, and no one is above him.
Who is your master?
Oh, shit. Oh, I gotta tell him.
I mean, you came into a Ventrue house. There's going to be a lot of name dropping. That's sort of how things go.
Yeah. And as far as we don't like actually know each other, but it's a big town.
It's one of the largest cities in Eastern the Eastern Empire. It's the largest city.
Constantinople, kind of a large town. That's what it's known as. Yeah.
Yep. We're gonna put that. Yeah.
Kind of a big deal.
Large town. I serve Antonio Polari.
Oh. He nods. Well, he sort of glances back into the room. There's not much space here, but if you're looking to get away from the rest of the party,
Yeah, I could use a little quiet time.
Well then, he gestures into the room.
Do you care to join me?
He's already inside the room.
Oh, well, okay. He's there. We're there. We're there together.
So if you take his invitation,
I do.
Yeah. So that's something you see, Emerenzia. You see Genevieve talk with this person at the door, and then eventually he gestures inside, and she goes inside, and he shuts the door.
Good for her. As long as she comes back out of there. Eventually.
He has a very small fire going in the room just to keep warm. Temperatures being what they are in Constantinople vary from night to night to day, but there is something in here to sort of keep the room warm. And you see the book that's like on his desk, and he has a reasonably appointed room. Epirus is likely a very powerful member of Clan Ventrue, and he seems to have done well in his service so far. There's marks of, heraldry here. There's stacks of books. There's a fine chair. There seems to be a well-appointed bed. None of it is large or ostentatious, but it's there. And it's certainly more than Antonio offers, his master of house, who shares a room with like 2 or 3 people. Like, Andronicus has his own room, and that's a symbol of status.
I go and sit on his bed, cross my legs, lean back a little bit. Wow, you have your own room? Our master of house has to share.
Oh, well, I am fortunate that Epirus knows my value, and I work for and serve a member of Clan Ventrue who is near the pinnacle of his power. He rules many different markets here, and I'm certain that he will only continue to ascend.
Oh, most certainly. Just being here, I can feel the power.
He takes a step closer to you. Really, where do you feel the power?
so many answers to that.
I'll let you think on it. So, Ophelia, in the room that you've managed to secrete yourself into, you are watching a rather strange dance. So, around this square pool where these people are on all fours, there is a woman who is playing some sort of stringed instrument. And she is, the best term I would say is frolicking. And as she frolics and plays this instrument, she eventually circles around the pool and gets close enough to one of these forms on all fours. And with an abruptness that you are not prepared for and a complete and utter disregard for any sort of respect, she stops, turns, and kicks one of them immediately in the ass. And there is this report from the body. You feel this wave of sort of tension get released in the room. And there's this flesh on flesh smack from her bare foot connecting with the rump of this person. And then she goes right back to playing. She doesn't even miss the next few notes. And you watch it, curious for a moment at what in the world goes on here. Because this is nothing like your sire, your master has taken. There are no events like this he's ever taken you to. This is quite strange. You are completely, totally safe on mute.
Dang. Figured I would get away with not doing it at once, but my master is not quite as debaucherous as this in the parties that he throws, generally speaking. There's plenty of debauchery, but it's nothing so overtly grandiose.
Right.
And it's a little off-putting.
Yeah, this is a little foppish for you. This is a little sort of strange.
So does Thomas go into this area, or is he continuing on like further deeper into the building?
No, he's gone deeper. It looks like he's actively avoiding this person. So when you get into this space, you can tell that the pool that's here is a little, based on the size and the scope of the building here, it's a little left justified where it's at. And so Thomas is on the right, like all the way to the right. He is I don't want to be seen. I don't want to look at what's going on over there. That's what his mentality.
I'm going to resume my trail on him.
Okay. So we'll keep your stealth roll from before. We'll assume that that's what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You notice a couple of things. So you notice that as you continue forward, there are a couple of exits from this space that exit out into the exterior of the villa, so the garden itself, and possibly some other spaces. But this would be within the walled portion of the villa, so it would be those exit ways would be the only way to get there unless you were like going around and hopping walls. You also notice that if you're trying to keep pursuit with him or sort of keep to that space, you are going to physically encounter other people. There will not be a way not to, as many of the shadows or the long sort of arching dark spaces here are filled with people or things. So you're going to have to decide for yourself sort of what path you take. I would say collectively there's probably about 15 members of visible kindred in this room.
That's not an insignificant number.
That's correct. And there are non-kindred here. So there are seemingly ghouls and likely mortals. Several of them are arrayed around the pool here. You also get a little bit better of a visual on what's going on the people who are near the pool, and it looks like they're bleeding into it.
Mm. I think that I will do everything I can to give a wide berth to the people who are in the center.
Mhm.
And if that means that I have to trail a little bit closer to the people who are on that edge where Tomas is, that's what I'll do. If the doors that are like open into the gardens are like consecutive, I'll actually duck outside into the gardens and come back in through one of the other doors.
Okay. I'll have you duck outside into the gardens. It will break line of sight with Thomas. You won't know where he's at for a little while. But it does get you far enough away from the pool that that's not so much a concern. Okay. So we'll shift back to Emerenzia. So it's been now a couple of minutes since Genevieve has been in this room. The door is still shut. I would like to know, Emerenzia, what you're up to in this time.
Well, she's probably in the most strategic place she could be right now. Though, hopefully she's not just enjoying strategy while she's in there. So, but I haven't found Simon at any point in this, right?
So far, no. To be fair, you don't know what he looks like. He could be
But
any
nobody's
of...
like mentioned him.
Yeah, and so far, no. Really, the person that would probably know this off the top of their head would be Genevieve, because she serves a Ventrue master. You assume that Simon is probably dressed in... He's a vault guard, so he's probably dressed in armor. There are a few people dressed in armor, two that you passed on the way in. There are no active guards in this room, other than the ones in the small hallways at the far end of the room, which seem to be guarding the doors that are there.
Do I have any idea what the doors that they're guarding might lead to in a villa like this?
There's our alert box issue. 1 second. Go ahead. Sorry, what was that?
Oh, I asked if I know what that door they're guarding leads to in a villa like this.
Yeah, so it would lead towards the back of the house. So you've been to a ton of different villas with your time with the Dama. So you are not at all unaware. You assume that the parties are separate for specific reasons. And that could be anything from business going on to pleasure going on, perhaps a bit of both. And the cool part about that for you is that means that at some point, it stands to reason that someone will need to go from this room to that room because people will get, well, thirsty.
Sure.
And while it's a Ventrue house, and that means that they likely have some sort of particular taste, just by the array of flesh in this room, you can tell that there's a little bit of everything here.
Sure.
And that tells you, as someone who's been around society for a little while, that there's likely a fairly wide diaspora in the next room.
Yeah. Of course. Are there any other offshoots parts of the house that look less guarded?
Yes, there are actually. So in this portion, the front portion of it, you can tell that there is a room just beyond the main pool here, one that's not being used. That seems to be a space for. It's likely some type of shrine. It's likely to local deities. There's probably also there's probably a chapel somewhere in here just to keep with appearances and whatnot as well.
I'm going to wander further from the party around the house and see if I can get a bit better of a lay of the villa. Understanding that there might be a little bit of trouble at risk, but I can handle it better.
Yeah, for sure.
Know my way around a hill.
Okay. You go investigate some of the other less populated places. And in the shrine area, you come upon a young man who is kneeling in front of one of the altars that's here. So not uncommon for there to be shrines and altars to local or family gods. Most of that has been swept away by the religious fervor of Christendom, but it's not uncommon for some pagan deities to still keep up appearances. And there is a young man there who is pleading and hoping that someone will help him. Someone will hear his voice. You can hear his lamentations, I guess is probably the best word for it, before you enter the space.
Well, somebody in need of help. How could I resist finding out more at least? I mean, maybe it's somebody who I could help, or maybe it's somebody useful to get help for. So, I'll enter. I'll check it out.
You enter. He stops and he makes a final gesture, like he presses his fingers to his lips and then presses them against one of the statuary pieces here and stands up. And sort of stands silently for a moment.
Not necessarily trying to sneak up on him, but sort of softly walking up next to him, not just stomping through the shrine. If he doesn't notice me before I get kind of near him, then I'll just sort of softly go, I heard some crying out. Are you in need of somebody?
He inhales pretty sharply and turns sort of where you're to face you. I am saying a prayer in hopes that my benefactor will hear me through these stone walls. I have been waiting and waiting and serving many years now, and I am concerned for my future.
Why concerned?
I have not been able to speak with my master in 6 weeks.
Oh gosh. Who's your master?
Macarios. He is away on business for the clan. You get a better look of him in the light, and you realize that this young man's body has been altered. Altered. You see that parts of him don't necessarily line up with your expectations. Like, he is a little taller than you first realized. And it really isn't until you get closer to him you realize how much taller. And the way he wears his tunic with no undershirt shows off like parts of the musculature of his torso, and you realize that he has more muscles in his torso than you think there are. And as he speaks, you realize that this youth has more teeth than his mouth is supposed to fit.
I will slowly, but without hesitation, reach out and sort of lightly trace some of the muscles that are not covered by his tunic that I can see, thanks to his lack of undershirt, and go, what kind of clan business would he be away from you for so long for?
He has gone to the north to speak with some of his elders. I am his servant, his creation. As you like trace the lines on the musculature that you can see, you realize that there are no wasted or additional areas that are like clung with fat. The muscles are like swollen and taut. It's possible that, he's served in the war as an armsman or perhaps a warrior of some sort. But it borders on unnatural just looking at him. He's also warm, like unbelievably warm to the touch.
Oh. I suppose running a body like that would actually probably make somebody run one. And what was your name?
Alexios. I've come from Greece. And you?
Oh, I am Emerenzia. Some of my family is from here, so I moved here from Italy.
What brings you here to this place?
This party or this city?
Oh, the party, of course.
My master wished me to attend for her. I often attend parties for my mistress, I should say. The Dama often has me go to social events for her and just try to get a lay of the social conduct of the city when she can't attend herself. So.
Well, she sounds wondrous, and she is lucky to have a stately and charming creature such as yourself.
Isn't that kind of you to say? But she is wondrous, and I am more than happy to serve. You were, oh no, your cries for somebody to help you. I just could not leave those unheard, just in case the stone walls didn't pass on your message.
I've called to him. I've prayed to Michael, but I have not yet received an answer. And so I will wait. And I will continue.
Do you have any idea who your master had business with that brought him up this way?
Yes, he is waiting for this business with the Latin Quarter to resolve. He is concerned, as many of his fellow family are.
Does he have family or some business in the Latin Quarter?
I do not know.
My mistress is also concerned with what's going on in that quarter. It's escalated tonight. You could see the buildings on fire, the wounded.
Indeed. Even earlier this evening, there was word that the hospital of St. John was attacked.
Oh, even attacking hospitals.
It is worse if you have the strength to hear.
I do. Please go on.
Those attackers bloodied themselves with the body of the infirm and the sick that were within the hospital. It is my understanding that no one survived.
Oh. That is quite the brutal attack.
It is the riots of years ago all over again, but worse.
Do you have any idea where your master might be waiting for this to go and finish itself or blow over or be resolved? Where he might pull up, as it were?
Perhaps outside the city. I have considered going there, except that you watch his body flex as if in frustration. And that's really when you get like the full breadth of how strong he looks. You watch all of his muscles tense up, and he sort of swells and then calms. My master ordered me to be here in this space. And so I will not break my vow. I will be here.
How long must you stay here for, though?
Until the morning, if he has not come. With the morning light, I will return to his domain and his home.
I hope you find him there.
What a glorious time it would be if he would show here. It would be good to see his faces.
She's going to take note of the plurality of that, but internally. The plurality does catch her off guard, though. Oh. What will you do if he's not there, though?
If he is not home,
Mm-hmm.
then I will wait for him there.
Why not go look for him?
Every time I have tried to find him in the past, every time I have sought him out, I have been reminded that My master can take many forms.
Mm.
It is best to follow his instructions, lest he choose to turn his work on me. I would not wish to displease him.
That's a sentiment I understand. I'm not so good at restraining myself from doing the things that I would like to do, but I do understand not wanting to disappoint.
He gives you a deep bow and then turns back and sort of falls to his knees here in this chapel area and he begins humming, orating some song. It's in a really strange language that you are not readily familiar with. Maybe it's German?
Oh.
Maybe.
If I listen long enough, can I kind of pick up what the tune's like?
Yeah, it's a dirge.
I will give him a couple gentle, reassuring pats on the shoulder and leave him to it. I hope we cross paths again. I'll say as I walk towards the door. Either the door I came from or another door, whichever.
There's only one door in and out of this place at this point. Okay. And speaking of doors, I don't want to leave Genevieve on the hook too long. So you do confirm a couple of things. Important, very important things about where you're at and also who you are with. This is Andronicus. And he is very much interested in each fold of the fabric of your dress and how lovely it might look across the stones on the floor of his bedroom.
Where's the key that he had to unlock his bedroom door?
Oh, you find it. You 100% find the key. He keeps it on a chain, a reasonably thin chain, not too terribly thin, but a chain around his neck. And you can tell that it is, I'll just say skeletal in nature, right? Not a traditional skeleton key, but it is sort of skeletal. And there are gems inset into it. It's about probably 6 or so inches long. It sits right here around his sternum.
Okay, yeah, so I slipped my dress off.
I mean, I won't argue the idea of it, but I'm not sure how. We're not like 14th, 15th century, using like a technical manual to get you in and out of a dress, but it is
they're a little harder.
It's a little work, maybe just a slight bit of work, but something that you're completely up to the task for, because ultimately it's about serving the means that meet the end that you're looking for.
Of Antonio. Yep. So I do that and I scooch back onto the bed. Are you coming?
As it is offered, it is so accepted. And so Andronicus enjoys time alone with you. if only for, a fleeting few moments in time as by compared to the time that you'll spend doing other things. I would not say that he is particularly deft or adept at such things. He's likely very direct. I'll just ask, and not to be too particular about it, but I'll ask if there is anything you're attempting during the act.
Yeah, I'm gonna choke him until he passes out.
I love that for you. Okay. So he is mortal. You are mortal, technically. But you're also both ghouls. And so choking can be done a couple of different ways. So as a ghoul, you have the ability to spend blood to increase your physical attributes. You don't have any, you have potence as part of being a ghoul as well. And so that will assist you. And so it would be a strength brawl roll to choke him out. I'm going to give you surprise on this because I don't think he's expecting during coitus to be choked. He certainly isn't asking for it. It's not to say that one couldn't get choked during coitus because we don't kink shame on this show. If that's your thing, totally okay with it. It's not for everybody, but if it's your thing, that's totally okay. We're not disparaging it anyway. So what I would like... Go ahead.
Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
With potence, I can spend a blood point to turn those dice into automatic successes for the turn.
You certainly can.
So I'd like to spend a blood point to do that.
Okay, so you're going to make one of them an automatic success.
Yes. And then, I'm sorry, you said I could also spend a blood point to...
You can spend blood. You could spend blood to increase your physical attributes, right? But the thing you have to keep in mind is you're a ghoul, so you're sort of locked into spending one blood point per turn. Also, keep in mind that as a ghoul, you only have 10 points of blood. And if you run out of blood, bad things happen.
So I'm not going to spend any other blood to add to my physical attributes. I've already got one success with spending the blood from my potence.
Yep.
And so you said it's going to be strength brawl?
I did say that it's going to be strength brawl because I'm effectively considering this what's called a hold. I think that's the best way to do this action. I would also remind you and all the other players that if you would like, you do have the ability to spend a willpower as well on any roll. And that could basically put 2 successes in your favor already. Your goal here should try to honest as the player side would be to do as much damage as humanly possible to make it as hard for him to soak as possible so you can just choke him out as quickly as you can.
Yeah, at this point, I don't care if I kill him or not. So I will spend the will point to... I'll spend the will to get 2 successes.
Mm-hmm.
So... Sorry, I'm marking this down. One will. Just so I can mark it on my sheet later.
It's okay. I'm just going to have him roll stamina. You go ahead and roll your dice for your strength.
4, 1, 6. So right now I have 3 successes without rolling. And so then you want me to roll brawl strength. So
I want you to roll strength brawl, yeah. Storyteller system attributes always first.
I got a 10, so that's automatically 2 successes plus exploding. Right?
So 10s aren't going to explode unless you have a strength or a brawl specialization.
Oh, okay. So I do not. So it'll just be 2 successes. 2 successes, right?
2 rolled successes plus the thank you mods. 2 successes plus the automatics that you got.
Well, I also have 1, 2, 3. I have 8 successes total.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So 8 successes. So what I'm going to tell you is that he made a defense roll. right? So that's a roll that he gets. He didn't get any successes on it, so which means you're going to net 8. Now he's going to get a stamina roll, and that's to soak the incoming damage that you're giving him. So, all right, he has. So let's see here. Based on his health levels. Yeah. So you choke him. You begin choking him. And you begin bearing down with everything that you have. I assume that you're doing this in a dominant position. So I'll assume you're doing this
sure.
while you're riding him.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
So you bear down with all the strength that you have. You feel your sire's will, that order he gave you, surge through your body. His blood lends strength. You have seen him physically choke people to death. You can see that vision in your head of him exacting his justice. And you bring those images and feelings to bear. And you feel the blood sort of pound in your ears. And everything goes quiet for you except for the choking sound. And eventually, Andronicus no longer moves. You see your hands are coated in blood from his neck because the strength of your limbs, the strength of your hands broke the skin at his neck. At some point, his hands came level with your back and with your ass and tried to grab on you to pull you off. But it ultimately failed, as did his strength, as did his ability to hold on to any other bodily functions. You release him into the night. He falls over onto his own bed. His neck snapped.
Yeah, I wipe my hands on his bed sheets. Get off. I
mean, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, given what we know, what I know about your character, yeah, this is probably exhilarating. And you also get up off the bed.
Yeah, I get off the bed and put my dress back on.
You are.
I also grab the key as well.
Certainly,
that's really important.
There's a little.
Want to get distracted.
There's a little cleanup work Genevieve's going to have to do. Just all in all, probably don't want to just slip that dress right back on. You want to probably. There's a water basin over here. You can, get things done.
I put the covers over Andronicus all the way, and clean myself up at the water basin. Fix my hair the best I can, and I have the key in hand, and I put my dress back on.
You put your dress back on, having captured your prize. At least the first one, the one that will give us the opportunity to delve deeper, which we are going to do in the next episode. So we are getting close to the end of our first stream of Stealing Immortality. I've had a ton of fun. Hopefully our players have as well. So we are going to be back here next week on Thursday for the continuation of our story. If you are watching this on YouTube in the, after space, then hopefully you'll stop out. Hopefully you'll share it with folks that might like a little bit of a different sort of vampire story, one set in 1185 in Constantinople. We are using the 20th anniversary edition rules of Dark Ages Vampire. And I want to give my players a chance to say goodnight personally on that note. So if we would just go back to our introduction order and tell the viewers who you are, who you've been playing, and what dastardly deed you are going to get up to next episode.
So I'm I'm Morgan. I have been playing Genevieve de Montfort, and she's a ghoul in Clan Ventrue, and uh, I'm just not really sure how much more trouble I could get up to after this episode. So it's it only goes up from here. So we'll see what I got the key now, so we'll see where that leads us.
Fantastic. Next.
I'm Bunny. I was playing Emerenzia. I am a Toreador ghoul, and honestly, if somebody was going to both have sex and kill somebody, I'm shocked it wasn't me tonight.
I'm also shocked.
Kind of wild. I did almost seduce something that had way too many teeth, though, and that feels right. That feels right.
It certainly does. Last but most certainly not least.
Hi, I'm Allie, and I've been playing Ophelia Sellos, a Brujah ghoul, and I'm just waiting to continue to dodge the kindred that are in this place where I went like 2 levels ahead of where my power level is right now, so we're gonna have to just be careful.
Nice. I love that for you, and I love that for our viewers. So I'm hoping all of you will stick around because we're going to go raid our friends at Dork Tales because it's fun and it's fun to do. And so hang in there, and we will see you on the next stream.